Hey guys, and welcome back to Wrestle News 365 here. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about, to be honest, what everyone's talking about, isn't it, at the moment? And that is the coronavirus and how it's going to impact WrestleMania. Sorry if it's a little bit repetitive today. I know everyone's almost probably sick, pardon the pun, of talking about it, but it's an important subject that needs to be talked about, especially in terms of what you like to discuss here on this channel, and that is professional wrestling, and that is WrestleMania. Now, a lot's happened in the last 24 hours regarding the coronavirus, specifically in the professional wrestling world, and specifically the professional sporting world. So last night it was announced that the NBA has suspended their whole season indefinitely due to an NBA player testing positive for the coronavirus, and therefore everyone that comes into contact has to go into self-isolation for 2 weeks, and the NBA have taken the decision to suspend their entire season. Now, on top of that, last night, President Donald Trump announced that there would be a temporary travel ban from Europe for the next 30 days, excluding the United Kingdom, but everywhere else in Europe would be barred from travelling to the United States. Now, the issue for professional wrestling fans, of course, is that WrestleMania is now 24 days away. Therefore, if you wanted to travel, or you had bought tickets and you were going to travel from Europe to WrestleMania, that's not going to happen anymore, which is a huge concern for WWE. I mean, a large portion of the fans that travel to WrestleMania are from Europe. I mean, they are from all over the world. Obviously, you do have a lot of domestic fans in the States that travel to WrestleMania, but the great thing about WrestleMania and the post-WrestleMania Raw crowd is the fact that it's fans from all over the world, specifically Europe. You get a lot of European fans fly over, and that's what makes the crowd so great. And WWE likes to brag about that, don't they, when they come to talking about WrestleMania? Fans have come from miles and miles away, all over the world, all over Europe, from likes of the United Kingdom, likes of Italy, likes of France, likes of Germany. The problem is that now the people from those countries, excluding the United Kingdom, are now not able to travel to the United States. And that's rightfully so. I mean, you look at the likes of Italy at the moment with the coronavirus, the whole country is practically on lockdown. There are no mass gatherings. There are no, lots of sporting events are cancelled. Serie A, the football league in Italy, is cancelled till April. And I don't know, I don't have a percentage number on the amount of people that would be travelling from Europe from WrestleMania. Is it 50%? That's probably too high, but I would say at least 30% maybe would be travelling from Europe. So that's already 30% of people that can't come to WrestleMania. And as time goes on with WrestleMania now, with so many events getting postponed and so many mass gatherings getting cancelled and done behind closed doors, and with the positive tests of coronavirus getting higher and higher, and you see on the news that they suggest that the United States could be about 10 or 14 days behind the likes of Italy in terms of the whole country having to go on lockdown. For me, it's becoming more and more likely that WrestleMania will be postponed and moved to the summer, because at this point, the logistics of it just look more and more impossible, don't they? I can't envisage a scenario where WWE can move forward with this event. It was announced last night. Now, WWE hasn't officially announced this, but I'm sure it will be very, very soon, that Smackdown this week will not be in the arena they were due to being. I believe was it Denver? Either way, they're going to be broadcast from the Performance Center this week, which is a short-term solution, quite frankly, because I've seen a lot of people saying, well, maybe then WWE will just do that going forward. Now, one, obviously, they're not going to broadcast WrestleMania from the Performance Center. That's not going to happen. Yes, they may do a few Raw and Smackdowns from the Performance Center. We saw NXT there last week. That was because Full Sail wasn't available, but all it takes really is one employee at the Performance Center to test positive for the coronavirus, and then everyone who's interacted with that employee, so pretty much everyone at the Performance Center, would need to go into self-isolation for 2 weeks. The same for one employee at WWE HQ. All it takes is for one employee to test positive, and then everyone needs to go into self-isolation for 2 weeks. That's how this virus spreads, and that's how serious it is in terms of having to go into self-isolation, and that's how things are just stopping. That's why things are getting postponed, is because if you even interact with someone that has tested positive, you need to go into self-isolation. And like I said, over here in Europe, we're having football matches played behind closed doors. We're having football matches be postponed and cancelled. All sports like I said, in Italy has been cancelled until April, or postponed until April. Schools have been closed. Mass gatherings cancelled. Even in the football matches that do go ahead, there's no handshakes anymore. And then you have countries, like I said, like Italy, that are in lockdown, and we'll see the same going forward with other countries around Europe and the world, and other states, specifically in America. And while I see people complaining about, it's terrible, it's scaremongering, why should WrestleMania be cancelled, blah, 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 but it is unprecedented, and I don't think we have seen anything like this, and it is frustrating and it is annoying. But the health of everyone is a priority. People at risk of dying, and I know there's about a 50% recovery rate at the moment with people that have had the virus, but people that they're saying, if they're older or if they have underlying health conditions, in the States, I believe the United States is ground zero for morbid obesity in the United States. People have the underlying health conditions associated with that. People that are contracting the virus that are older or have the underlying health conditions are dying. And do we really want to have elderly people and people with underlying health conditions get sick and die because they wanted to watch WrestleMania? At the end of the day, we love professional wrestling, but it's not worth risking your life for if you fall into that category. And yes, it might not affect everyone. Some people will have the virus and be completely fine. Some people won't even have symptoms. But it's in my opinion, it's right to protect the people that are vulnerable, and it's not worth them getting sick and potentially dying just to watch a professional wrestling show. This goes beyond WWE at this point, and it goes beyond entertainment, and it's just a fact of what the world is dealing with at the moment. Now, we don't know how long this whole coronavirus pandemic will last. It could be days, it could be weeks. The experts are speculating it could be 3 to 6 months, potentially. But everything is getting disrupted, and at this point I don't think the WWE will be any different. And you also have to think of the liability point of view, really. WWE is a publicly traded company. They can't be doing mass gatherings of people from all over the world and all over the country if areas are becoming more infected than others. They can't afford to be liable for that. They can't afford to have someone come to their show, contract the coronavirus, and then potentially get deathly sick or in fact die themselves. And like I said, at the moment WWE is walking a very fine line with it, quite frankly, because we've seen over here in Europe where soccer players, football players, centre back for Juventus in Italy got tested positive for the coronavirus, and the whole team and club has had to go into self-isolation for 2 weeks. All it takes is one superstar, one employee, one sound person, one lighting person, the pyro guy, a seamstress, a road agent, a producer, whoever. All it takes is one person to be tested positive for the coronavirus, and everyone that has interacted with them will have to go into self-isolation for 2 weeks at least. And that could be the whole WWE roster if it's someone important in WWE that everyone interacts with. So what happens then? What happens when the majority of the roster has to go into self-isolation? That's when we're talking about cancellations. That's when we're talking about not even things getting postponed. That's when the chaos will happen for WWE. So at this point, it's more and more likely that everything will be postponed. And that's not just WrestleMania. Public gatherings will be off. So yes, with the Performance Center, we could see a lot of empty arena shows maybe. But then again, that will depend on how infected the area is, which by the WWE, the arena that they're running for that night. It depends if we get any positive tests at the Performance Center. It depends if we get any positive tests at the WWE HQ in Stamford. And I think at this point, with the fans travelling over from Europe to WrestleMania not being able to, I think it will be incredibly harsh for a huge portion of the audience to miss out on WrestleMania because they're unable to travel too. That's a big portion of the audience that you're going to be missing for WrestleMania, and part of the audience that makes it so great. So in terms of how long does this last, like I said, the data at the moment for the whole coronavirus pandemic, which it's been upgraded to now by the World Health Organization, WHO, that it is a pandemic. So, and we don't know how long this could last. it's looking less and less likely that it's going to be a days or weeks scenario. It's looking more likely it's going to be a months scenario. And WWE will have to be drawing up contingency plans, like I'm sure they will as we speak. But most importantly, Vince McMahon can't be hard-headed when it comes to this. I know he is the king of the show must go on, isn't he? He is the king of, we're the WWE, we'll go on regardless of all these disasters and shows being double booked, weather, all of that stuff. WWE has been famous for the show must go on. They never cancel a show, do they? But at this point, they have to leave it to the experts. They can't let money and greed dictate this. I know this is WWE's biggest show of the year. I know the revenue of postponing this show would be huge, but WWE isn't alone on this. You know, every sporting organization, every mass gathering, every company that does mass gatherings is being hit by this. Everyone is. And WWE shouldn't be part of the problem by potentially infecting more people and then putting a bigger strain on the health professionals and the health systems around the world from wherever people have travelled from for WrestleMania. And WWE just, in my opinion, they can't pull a Vince McMahon here and say we're going to give the people what they want. They can't. It's too serious for that. When you're talking about life and death for certain people, I know people, when I say life and death, will eye roll because they'll say, oh, you just scaremongering, it doesn't affect everyone. It's just a worse flu. That's been proven false. It's not just a worse flu. It's between 10 to 15 times worse than the common influenza virus. Like I said, we're talking about a virus that's 10 to 15 times worse than the common influenza, and it's dangerous, it's contagious, and the thing that I think the most scary thing about it is that we don't know a lot about it yet. The data they're getting is from the cases already seen in China, but that data doesn't necessarily apply to places like the United States, like Italy, like over here in the United Kingdom. There's different health factors and underlying health conditions and all of that stuff to be associated with those countries specifically. So this is a thing where we're learning more and more about it every day, and it is dangerous and it is contagious. So events like WrestleMania, just from the health and safety point of view, just shouldn't go on. Now, when would a rescheduled WrestleMania take place? Again, it's difficult to say. We don't have all the answers of how long this is going to last at the moment. Potentially, if they're saying 3 to 6 months, could we be looking at a summer WrestleMania this year? I would say so. Potentially, the stadiums would still be available in the summer, so they could possibly do that. People are going to say, "What about SummerSlam?" This is unprecedented stuff. This is stuff we haven't, or the WWE hasn't had to deal with before. So, my best guess, if it was to be 3 months' time, we would be looking likely at a summer WrestleMania, which they could almost turn into a bit of a summer festival, I guess. I don't know. I would like to think that WWE is doing contingency plans as we speak. Now, what would happen to the schedule in terms of Raws and Smackdowns? Again, I don't know. I'm sure WWE can find a way around it. They've got a huge library of tapes that they can play on these shows. They can create, I suppose, documentaries. They can still have people cut promos, I guess, from wherever, from the studios. Again, this is unprecedented. It's difficult to even speculate as to what WWE could do, and in terms of the schedule and in terms of the matches, I really don't know. This is unprecedented. But look, everyone's in the same boat here. The NBA, the government, the Premier League over here in the UK, UEFA, FIFA, all of these big sporting organisations, the NHL, everyone's in the same boat here. No one really knows what's going on, but everyone has to take the best safety and health precautions, and only time will tell. Now, in terms of WrestleMania, a decision on it, I believe that the mayor of Tampa is holding a meeting today at 12 p.m. To determine if WrestleMania can go forward. The mayor of Tampa has released a statement saying that whilst WWE will be able to weigh in on if they think WrestleMania should go forward, it's ultimately up to Tampa's call whether the show will go forward. Now, WWE also released a statement saying that they have no plans to postpone or cancel any of their events, but that was released prior to seeing the likes of the NBA postpone their season and seeing the travel ban by President Donald Trump be announced. So I think their stance on that will change. I think most likely today or tomorrow, we will hear the announcement that WrestleMania has been postponed. I don't know if we'll get an official date of when the event will be taking place. But like the mayor of Tampa said, it's ultimately the town's call. WWE can put a lot of pressure on them, and I know WWE most likely will put a bit of pressure on them because it's such a great revenue earner for the WWE, and it's such a great revenue earner for Tampa itself. But when you see other organizations and other events being postponed and cancelled, it's just a matter of time. Like I said, the logistics of it alone become more and more impossible with every single day. And I think WWE will follow suit. You know, like I said, we're even seeing cases like now with famous celebrities such as Tom Hanks and his wife being positively tested for the coronavirus. As I mentioned, we get the Juventus centre-back Daniele Rugani has been diagnosed, and the whole Juventus football team has gone into self-isolation. The NBA season has been suspended. March Madness from the NCAA will be played with no crowd. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets postponed as well. And like I said, we have the travel ban from the US to Europe or Europe to the US for 30 days. The logistics of it just become more and more likely. And we also have the Major League Baseball, MLB, closing all their clubhouses. And this is 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out from WrestleMania. So I don't expect the status of WrestleMania just to stay exactly the same. It's going to have to be suspended or postponed. And like I said, it's frustrating, and it's one of those things where it's unprecedented, and we haven't seen anything like this before. And WWE has obviously never had to deal with anything like this before. But this is a case where the planet has never had to deal with anything like this more. And it's important that WWE let the experts make the right call. It is going to be a massive loss in revenue. We've seen WWE stock going down the last day since the travel ban was announced and since the NBA suspended their season. And I'm sure it will go down once it's announced that WrestleMania is postponed. But like I said, WWE isn't alone in this one, so it's just a matter of time. Of course, once we do get an official announcement about WrestleMania, about Smackdown tomorrow at the Performance Center, we'll also do a reaction to that on this channel. But at the moment, we can just wait and see, and most importantly, stay safe and keep the proper hygiene up. Make sure you wash your hands and all of the stuff that the experts say. People will have their own views on it, but I think it's important that we follow their advice and this whole thing isn't taken too lightly. And in terms of Smackdown tomorrow at the Performance Center, we know that John Cena's coming back tomorrow, or he was due to come back on Smackdown. I'm sure he'll still appear from the Performance Center. I'm not sure what they'll do in terms of fans, having fans at the Performance Center. They had them there for NXT last night, so I would assume we're not going to have a completely empty Performance Center. So I would assume, lucky fans in Orlando, Florida are going to get a free Smackdown tomorrow. And I'm sure the Smackdown, because it's in a different setting, because it's in a different environment, it'll be a fun and interesting watch tomorrow. But I think it's going to be one of the last Smackdowns that's going to be in front of a live crowd for sure, because as I mentioned earlier, from what experts are saying, this, in terms of the United States anyway, the amount of cases is only going to rise. The amount of, unfortunately, deaths are going to rise with it. And it's just a really difficult situation, but WWE needs to follow suit. They can't, especially when such a big event like WrestleMania, they can't wait too long to announce that it's postponed. It really is now or never, and unfortunately I do think it is going to be now. So like I said, on the channel here and on the podcast, we'll be doing lots of coverage about what's happening with WrestleMania, what's happening with WWE going forward. So make sure you've subscribed, bottom right hand corner. Make sure you like and share this, and we're now available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so we'll be posting lots of content to there, so you'll be able to get your pro wrestling fix whilst pro wrestling looks like to be postponed or suspended. But like I said, we'll keep you updated on that here at Wrestle News. But what do you think about WrestleMania? Will it be postponed? When would you have WrestleMania be rearranged for? Will it be in the summer? Will it be later on in the winter? Or will they just miss out on WrestleMania this year? What is going to happen? It's unprecedented, but I'd really like to hear your opinion on it as well. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click at the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.